Euthanasia has been legal in the Netherlands for 20 years. How do you feel about this? Please don't misunderstand. Euthanasia is strictly ruled in the Netherlands. It's not like you wake up one day and say today is a good day to die. Give me a shot. You have to have a doctor that agrees on the level of suffering that is no longer acceptable. And you have to be of clear mind to determine it yourself. Others can't determine this. Repercussions on abuse or breaking of the rules are great. So a lot of doctors are very reluctant. I think it's good. It saved a lot of people of intolerable suffering. I think it's okay under the right circumstances. Letting someone die a slow painful death is just cruel. It should be legal everywhere. Keeping relatives alive against their will and forcing them to suffer is cruel, greedy and evil. I'm a physician and on a daily basis am forced to treat individuals who are literally rotting away, so demented they cannot communicate at all, extremities so contracted they can't move, pressure ulcers everywhere, and seem to exist in a near constant state of pain and fear. Then they get pneumonia or a urinary tract infection and their family wants to do everything to save them. WTF. It's really one of the worst parts of my job. If I recommended euthanizing grandma I would get fired and probably make national news. Yet, when it comes to our pets, it is apparently an act of love and the right thing to do. I'm Dutch. A good friend of mine got euthanized at age 47. His pain was unbearable. He was completely depending on others, but couldn't stand to be touched because of inflammation of his nerve endings. Imagine having to live like that to an old age. I think it's a thing we can be proud of, and now we need to get going with legalizing cannabis, like a civilized country. I feel that euthanasia is a sign of a highly evolved society. Veterinary care offers animals more compassion and dignity than most humans have access to. Dying a slow/painful/undignified death scares me more than retirement financial planning. If I lived in the Netherlands, I would feel less anxious about aging. Should be legal worldwide. The right of self-determination is a universal right. This includes whether you even want to exist. Netherlands did the right thing. Witnessing my grandma slowly turn into a husk of a person when she had pancreatic cancer was terrible. If she was euthanized a week or two earlier my family would have an easier time remembering her as a strong person she was in life. She was asking for it too. Also, my mom owns a vet clinic, and being able to euthanize an animal so they don't suffer is the hardest/most humane way of going about it. My neighbor's 19-year-old son was horribly burned in an accident. He spent nearly 2 years getting skin grafts that kept rejecting. He had to bathe in bleach to keep the infections down to a manageable level. He was on the maximum level of pain management possible and my neighbor still used to come over in the middle of the night to drink tea with my mother because her son could not stop crying from the pain long enough to sleep. When he was 24 my neighbor gave him all of his pills and shots at once and suffocated him. Then when he was gone shot herself. There has to be a better way. She should not have been forced to make him suffer absolutely hellish agony for almost 5 years. He shouldn't have been asked to endure that and finally getting to choose the end he'd been asking for shouldn't have required that his mother be the one to do it. We have to be better. No one asks to be brought into this world. The least we can do is give people the choice to leave it on their own terms. I have witnessed someone die of early onset dementia. They essentially starved to death as they could not eat anymore. Euthanasia should be legal everywhere. I believe in euthanasia. My dad suffered miserably for a few years when dying from cancer. He couldn't die fast enough. He kept telling me not to go looking for him if he wasn't in his spot because he was going out to shoot himself. He tried once, but couldn't do it. Then he was on hospice. So he tried to take a shitload of medication that he had and just sleep and not wake up. He was pissed when he woke up 3 days later. He would have been the ideal candidate for euthanasia. The Dutch have always set a fine example for how a country should behave when it comes to these types of laws. I wish it was legal in Great Britain. It's unimaginably cruel to keep people alive in unfathomable pain. Watched my dad die of pancreatic cancer. Those last 2 weeks were awful. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. So I think this should be an option. It's great and it should be instituted worldwide. But I wish there was an option for people who are diagnosed with degenerative mental conditions like Alzheimer's or dementia, to ask for it in advance. There are Alzheimer's cases in my family and I watched both my grandmother and her sister lose themselves to dementia. I would rather die than go down that path. I really don't see the point of keeping someone who is mostly bed-bound and barely aware of what's going on around them alive. Especially when in so many cases the family can't afford proper care. It's humane to let people control their life and death. There are a few stories of people making a miraculous recovery and making it through, but that is not the usual case. I know when I want to go. Others know too. People against euthanasia be like ducking die in pain. Asshole. Belgian here. And I almost can't imagine not having the option available. One of the patients in our pharmacy, a really nice grandma, was diagnosed with ALS. Over the course of mere months, she lost the ability to speak, hold up her own head, swallow her own saliva. She was perfectly capable mentally, but physically she was deteriorating before our very eyes. She chose euthanasia last April. Her children and grandchildren could say goodbye to her. She went on her own terms. Had she not done this, she would have died suffocating because she couldn't control her muscles well enough, or she would have been hospitalized in the middle of a pandemic when no one would have been allowed to visit her, and she would have died alone. I feel like I want to move to the Netherlands. I support it fully. If your body is not your own, then freedom is a lie. Also legal in the state of Oregon. It's called the Death with Dignity Act. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.